Morning again to you two boys and girls. I got freaky do again. Wear this when I'm traveling like crazy. Comes in handy. It does. I recommend vests. I like vests. Vests you can have stuff put in buckets. The stuff that you actually need these days when you're traveling a little bit. Yeah, just trying to get my desk in order here. Sorry. I'm a bit preoccupied a little this morning, still trying to wake up a little bit, but to tell you the truth, I've also been awake a little bit. When the fireworks have been running like crazy, one tends to lose sleep. I usually don't have the lights on, except for the living room light, and that's about it. But I have to save the damn bulb. Keep it off. Deal with the other incandescent bulbs if I had to. But, you know what? Things happen. And the constant bases and the constant wear and tear on damn things. Yeah, I know I'm disgusting this morning, but you know, that's fine. I am disgusting. And not one of those clean-shaven or cleaned-up persons with a nice background to videotape now. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. Had maybe about, if I was lucky, 2 hours of sleep. Or 2.5 hours of sleep. The closer it gets to July 4th, the more I'm a little disorientated and a little irked. But I will tell you a story. A few years ago, when my brother passed away, during this time me and my brother would try to find ways of keeping her calm. My brother sometimes and I would have sat outside and listened and watched the fireworks, but knowing how his own PTSD from combat, he was a military vet at one time, it affected him a great deal. And I really didn't want that to happen to my brother. I mean, it really affected him a great deal. So badly that kind of made him shook. It was hard enough to deal with that when he would look at me and just not know me. And it scared the living daylights out of me because I didn't quite know how to deal with that. We used to, a long time ago when we were a lot younger, 20 or 30 years ago, we used to go to places to enjoy fireworks. We're like, ooh, wow, look at that one, look at that one. Oh, wow, why'd you just see that one? And we used to enjoy it. We used to have a ball over it. But now I see that the fireworks are more of a nuisance sometimes. They're there to be enjoyed by the youth. And the young at heart, and those who have actually been not accustomed to combat or PTSD of any sort that produces flashbacks. And in dealing with the fireworks outside, you know, if I actually saw the fireworks going off, I felt anger. Sorry, I'm trying to get something on the cord plugged into my damn computer here. So I can get my phone charged up. I felt anger. Too little resources to stop it, and too many people abusing whatever rights and freedoms they had against everybody else, and it just didn't care. Except for the standard argument that their freedom, their rights supersede everybody else's. What I've heard from different legal experts that, you know, you do have a point of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, except when you keep interfering with everyone else's common good, and then it's a problem. Because now you're supposed to be looking out for everyone's common good. But we're too damn independent. We're too damn selfish and self-centered. We're supposed to be celebrating a country's birth, and yet we keep pushing our own individual agendas. We do not know what this holiday system really means for the whole nation, just for our own internal collective nature. So, blasting out a neighborhood with fireworks may be your way of celebrating the 4th of July, but for those who are really sensitive about stuff like this, people are shrugging their shoulders and saying, grow up here. And some of those arguments I hear are constant on social media. What is this Karen I keep hearing about? Yeah, I know, I'm slow in the uptake on this one, but when I researched this, I'm thinking, you gotta be kidding me. We're going to be using something old and archaic at this point over here to say, don't be this fuddy-duddy here. Well, yeah, we'll be the fuddy-duddy if we have to, because if it affects everybody, yes, we will. Yes, we will. And this affects people a great deal. My dog, my own senses. Sometimes I can deal with the fireworks, but especially when I need to get some sleep. It's almost coming 1 o'clock in the morning. It's not inducive for sleeping if I hear fireworks, because someone else still has a need to celebrate fireworks. The 4th of July was supposed to mean something to every American, except we've lost it. We were looking and pursuing greatness, and in looking for that on the external, we have forgotten what it is on the internal. What it means to individually and what it means collectively. History classes can teach us facts and figures. We can learn them by rote. Context and intent and what it means is still left up to an individual interpretation at this point. We can make jokes about the holiday. We can say that this is Happy Trader Day or Happy Colonial Day and down with the King of England. In our current generation right now, we still have Queen Elizabeth still alive. She hasn't passed away yet. Queen Mum is still alive. My God, she's going to be pushing 100 pretty shortly, if she lives that long. And then there's Prince Charles, who's pushing 80, or late 70s, anyway. And in my lifetime, that is a long term for British monarchy. And they served the crown a great deal. They have served their country a great deal. They have done a lot of service. Some people thought they may have been a disservice because of their form of government is a hell of a lot different than ours. And they support the monarchy because they are full of tradition. We, unfortunately, keep screwing up our damn traditions. We keep reinventing, and then we bitch and gripe about it. We have been. Statues, monuments, we keep taking down. Some we think that they are totally inappropriate, and others we question the reasons why. When America was formed a long time ago, we had wealthy merchants. We had wealthy business people coming over with the common people. And common people provided the labor, and the business people provided the trades, the businesses, and the financing and stuff. But they all pulled together to formed the colonies one way or another. Still, the common everyday people who worked their butts off left and right, they were the common people. They were the masses. They were not the elites. They were not the small at the top. They were the ones supporting the damn pyramid. Looking at it socially. But they all had the dreams of working for a better country. Sometimes they were still indentured servants, regardless of race or skin pigmentation or wherever country of origin they were from. When they came to America, either they came by slaves or not. Well, when you were in chains, you didn't have the dreams until somebody kept telling you about what the country was to them a long time ago. Some of them kept looking for freedom. They wanted freedom so damn badly for themselves. Freedom to get out of the country and go back to wherever they came from to live. Others wanted to make a stay, make a stake, to have a point in their time and saying, this is what I choose for me, this is what I choose for my family, for my future, and I want to work for that. A noble, very noble. We all had our individual reasons. Some of us came here by choice. We came here by chains. But somehow or another, we made decisions of trying to make our lives a lot better. And maybe if we actually had a little bit of patience and love for the adopted country, that maybe we'd make this place a lot better and make it home. Maybe somehow, if we all work together, one way or another, we could try to make things work in this country. Not make things great, but just make things work. And it's still a work in progress. We are still considered a nation that is still a work in progress right now. We're not done with ourselves yet, if people ever actually thought about it. We're still not. If you look at a dollar bill, I don't have one right now, but if you look at the back of the dollar bill, and you see the pyramid, you see it's incomplete. It will always be incomplete because our country is still incomplete. It is still a country of growing nature. It cannot expand the borders, but it can expand the people and the values and context. It can expand on idealism. It can expand on all those things that makes our country what we think the country should be, or what it is. We have our own individual ideas of what the country should be, but we have different methods on how to get to there, how to achieve it. When I keep seeing the hats where it says "Make America Great Again," I'm thinking, like every other Tom, Dick, and Harry, I kept looking at those damn hats without a different viewpoint. I'm looking at a thing. What did we lose? What didn't we think about? If we're not making the country great again, what the hell are we making the country into? A cesspool? I don't know whose viewpoint is it great or viewpoint isn't it great. I think when the success was when we actually had people willing to come to the country by any means necessary to try to make a stand for themselves, to make a life for themselves. To say that they got sick and tired of their origins and they wanted to make a fresh start. That's what our country was made. Now the thing is, when I look at the country's history, we didn't start off as an idealistic country. We were horse thieves. By hook or by crook, we begged, borrowed, stolen, pointed blades, Bible thumped, raped, killed, pillaged, burned. All for what? It wasn't for idealism. We were trying to conquer another piece of dirt for our other countries and called it home. And we had wars over it. And the natives are scratching their heads and dying by the dozens and more than that and wondering what the hell is going on. A new country? They're kicking us out of our home and they're calling it a new country? Think of it this way. You're comfortable in your own home, but you're going to get a mob of people coming through that door, kicking your ass out, and calling your place a country. In the meantime, they're bringing all their ills and wills and everything else. That you're going to be dying by a plague. You're going to be dying by blade. You're going to be dying because your faith just got you killed one way or another. You've been used to death, abused to death. People like your stuff in your cabinets. They see their shiny rocks. They see the wealth and potential in your place. And they're saying, this is a place for me to call a nation. And you start coughing your head off. You start putting up blood. You start dying like crazy because somebody else decided to bring in their own, well, if we're going to use it, COVID-19. But in this case, they're bringing over their damn plagues that they've already been used to. Because they've already been through their plagues, they've already built up antibodies throughout the generations. That when they come over, they're coughing on people left and right. They didn't have any face masks back then. They didn't care, they didn't think about it at the time. So, the inhabitants were dying off left and right, used and abused, and went to war. And then maybe, if they're lucky enough, formed a treaty for them not to get killed off in the end. Maybe have a chunk of land. Maybe? Shit. I'm going to use my own little thing here, my apartment. A 2-bedroom, decent size for the living room, small enough for the kitchen, just for one person, maybe two, if you're lucky. And I'm going to put about 20 or 30 people in this place. Theoretically, okay? Theoretically. And then I'm going to get more. I'm going to get 40 or 50 people living in this place. How do we do this? The logistics, thinking about it, crammed into this place. But they're supposed to be able to live comfortably. I can understand maybe about 10 people trying to do that. But 50 people in a place like this? And yet, how did you think the natives felt in their own country? America is a land with huge opportunity, with huge, large tracts of fertile, of creatures that can be used for trading, pelts, lumber material, gold, shiny, useful rocks, and all this for us. It's like they're coming into my apartment over here, looking at stuff and saying, ooh, he's got an abundant supply of this stuff. Or maybe he doesn't, but ooh, we gotta have it. From the Native Americans' point of view, I can understand them being pissed off about it. I honestly can. The read enough material, go over the material, and you can honestly see their points of view. I'm not able to quote the stuff because I barely remember it, but I understand the intentions and what they're going through. Especially when I keep learning more and more how this country got started. But now that it got started and we had our 13 colonies and we got pissed off at King George because our native countries were warring with England left and right. And England decides to put its thumb down on the colonies and say, you will supply our coffers now. Because we're broker than anything else at this point over here. We need to get our coffers filled, and we're going to get it out of you one way or another. And you're going to pay one way or another. Simply put, you're a cash cow. We didn't take too kindly to that. No taxation without representation. It took me a hell of a long time just to figure that stuff out. I mean, they talked about it in the schools, but it goes over your head. You just don't get the context until you actually see the thing in progress. Until you actually understand what it means. Voiceless. Powerless. No control. Somebody else makes your destiny and puts their thumb on your ass, and you have no power, no say. Sometimes I feel like the Native Americans also had that situation too, because they kept trying to get their say one way or another. But when the 13 colonies were starting up, there was still areas that was being disputed, and a lot of other areas that weren't. But throughout the centuries, they got shrunken down to where they're trying to blend in as best as they can while keeping some of their culture, or their culture was specifically targeted to be wiped out, and then some people say, no, we gotta save them and put them on reservations and watch all hell break loose. For us, Independence Day means we're free from Great Britain, but it didn't mean for the Native Americans, and I have to keep remembering that because this is their apartment. And I'm just an English invader. Despite the fact I look at this place, and I already signed paperwork with Native England at this point for the rental of the place. And the owner of the place is looking at me saying, this is still our land, this is still our apartment. You stole it from us. But we're grateful we still have a place that we can lay our head on a pillow. Even it is if we're laying it on a wall here, scrunched in with 50 people. Hell of a perspective for July 4th, isn't it? The more I keep learning about history in the college courses, some people are telling me that I don't understand what's going on in history. I said, oh, you'd be surprised. You get the hook and by crook and by native stuff of what's going on, but do you actually have the context of what's going on? Do you honestly understand how the country got started? And once you understand that, then you have to figure out, where do you want this country to go? I've heard a lot of people say, don't look at the damn past, just keep looking forward. Well, if you keep looking forward, you keep ignoring the damn collateral damage that you've already done. And sometimes those steps led up to the point where you are right now. And for me to come up with this point of view is that what they call pure American. And you know what? There's no such thing for me as pure American. Throughout our culture, when we've been writing literature and how to describe many things, we've also had shows, science fiction shows, that presented to us a context that we had to absorb one way or another. Writers have a way of sneaking in cultural references in order for the other people to learn that we may have gotten some things a little screwed up. Tongue tied here. Need to get my oil from my mouth. What an invaluable resource that keeps being recycled by the earth so many damn times. There's nothing pure about it. It's just recycled. I just wish we could do the same thing for our own values and our own lands. Our own values at this point over here needs to be recycled. We have no idea what it is to be free. We have no idea what it is for liberty, life, and the pursuit of happiness, except for selfish, self-conscious, self-centered at this point over here and trying to stay alive. We're trying to be survivalists at this point, one way or another. And at the same time, we're looking at each other at this point over here and saying, what can I get from the other neighbor? What can I beg, borrow, steal, con from our next door neighbor? One way or another. I don't believe that we are fully grasping what the concepts, what the theories, what the upbringing that we had. We don't understand what all that means unless we're having a hell of a time trying to communicate that to the future or to our current generation. How our differences should be making changes, making their own context, their own flags in the air. I just think that our perspectives and our definitions of freedom and liberty have changed a great deal. People are looking at the COVID-19 as a political nightmare, basically. Or it's just a political headache we just have to take a couple of Tylenol and get rid of. No, it's a biological terror that we're dealing with right now. The more I keep looking about our past, I keep seeing the elements being repeated all over again, and we still haven't learned a damn thing. Not one. We tried, but we're still ignorant as hell. So we're still slaves. We're slaves to indifference, we're slaves to ignorance, to arrogance, to our own devices. I'm not talking about cell phone devices. I'm talking about our own devices, our own understanding, our own tools that we use to deal with life, deal with problems, deal with each other. And until we actually redefine ourselves and understand what it means to be what our forefathers wanted this country to be. There was a lot of interpretations in schools growing up. And there was also debates going on what the country meant to each other. And looking back over that, the debates have been ongoing since the formation of the country, even well before the formation of the country. People wanted freedom to live. That's all I wanted to do was live. Be away from the tyranny of a country that was going to be sucking you dry, one way or another. Sucking you dry because of your political, because you're religious, because of your moral values. And those values are being transferred from one generation to another generation to another generation. You see, that's how our country was created. By our own values that we kept transferring to each other until we thought maybe this was the great American melting pot at one time, and maybe with our differences we could still make a country out of it. But the problem is, sorry, I'm trying to get this damn thing working here. But we haven't. We haven't made a proper country out of this damn thing. We don't even know what the proper country is. We have our own different viewpoints, our own different contexts. The pyramid will never be complete because the pyramid depends upon a single viewpoint, not everyone else's viewpoint. We have our own individual viewpoints of what this country is supposed to be, so the country will never be complete. If it's under one particular viewpoint, then we don't have a country. We don't have a country. Our country, our idea of America, is based off of our own viewpoints, on our own history, on our own work, on everything that made this place, to us, a living entity. Everything that we know, everything that we've done, from since crossing over the waters into this place, and yes, invading someone's apartment house and making a ransacked mess out of it, in one viewpoint. But we looked at the apartment complex that we live in. Think of it as an apartment complex. And we're looking at the many rooms, what may suit us. We had 13 colonies set up. We had 13 apartment units. We may have squeezed out a few people. We may have made roommates out of them, but we made do. Then our family starts expanding. We start outgrowing. We start shoving out the other people. We make our own apartment, our own home, our own little state, our own little nation, if you say. But we had the landlords across the waters saying that you owe us. We have drained our coffers dry because we're fighting against other apartment complexes. The other apartment complexes are like trying to raid us left and right. We had to defend ourselves on the water and everything else. We had to fight this country, 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 and our resources are depleted. You, and that other apartment complex, are going to save us. And we're going to take it out of you one way or another. And guess what? They did. For a long while they did. Until we actually decided for ourselves in our 13 colonies, in our 13 apartment units, that the other apartment unit was completely mad. And we said, to you. And the management's like, you can't to us. How dare you? Send in the troops. Okay, here comes the troops with the bully boys. The maintenance staff becomes the bully boys. So now we have to have a war with the bully boys? We have to have a war with the maintenance staff? I know the apartment's a poor choice, but for me, I'm trying to find a context to put this thing in. We celebrated our freedom and our history because we did not want to be part of the originators. We wanted something else. We wanted something unique. We wanted something different. To our individual likings, but also to the collective. And we have forgotten what the collective is all about. Except someone else's vision, someone's polarized vision, who's trying to complete that pyramid. We don't want that pyramid completed. We need it uncompleted. Because if it's an uncompleted pyramid, we have room to grow. We have room to challenge ourselves, to explore ourselves and our surroundings. We have opportunities. But complete the damn pyramid and it's all finished. It's all locked into place, and guess what? We're no longer a country, we're a dictatorship. Because someone at the top is dictating to you. There's no election. One party, one rule. Let's do a Lord of the Rings, shall we? One ring that rules them all. And Sauron, not Saruman, but Sauron, will rule you all. Because he can, because he will. The mindset. The mindset. We have to have our differences. We have to have our cultural differences. We have to be a melting pot at this point over here. Because without those differences, it makes the country not a country. We could be clashing like crazy, but also we can learn from each other at this point over here. There used to be a phrase out there a long time ago. We used to be the melting pot. A big, huge melting pot of ideas and traditions and everything else that made us unique. We're now being separated into dishes over here. We're supposed to be called Americans. It's like taking soup and you're straining it. You get to the vegetable, you get to the meat, you get to the starch, to get to the liquid. And you separate them and you still call it a country or a soup? Is that America now? People are bitching and griping about it. They're bitching that their own individuality is being threatened at this point. And they're still called Americans. Oh, I'm sorry, Americans. I know, this is a long speech at this point over here. I'll do a part 2 when I can. So...